Hello, everyone. Welcome to But First Football. We are here in still the doldrums of July, but we have light at the end of the tunnel. We're just about to start training camp, and thank God, right? Because we need football. We need football in our lives. So we're going to talk today. Vaughn is going to share some training camp stories with us, things that we might find interesting to the untrained ear and eye, those of us who have never participated in a training camp before. So Vaughn, training camp,
Yes.
what's it like?
Training camp's always interesting because, you got 80 or so guys going into training camp, all with kind of a different purpose for being there. If you're one of the older established guys, you're trying to get through with the least amount of pain, strife as you can. And that's not to say you're not working to get better. You absolutely are. But you want to come through training camp because and assuming you're with have been with the organization, you know the playbook. You're just trying to tweak, work on a couple things, get yourself through healthy so you can get to the season. Younger guys, they have a different purpose, right? They're trying to make a roster spot, secure one of those coveted roster spots. And so they show up with a little bit different purpose, and so, you always see the reports about fights during training camp and, just the attitudes are flaring. And that's partially because you've been working so much together so long in the off season, and you're not working in pads, you're working in skins, and you can't really be that physical. You're not going through the motions. I mean, it's pretty high tempo, but you can't hit each other. Well, finally, you can put the pads on. You can make you can make the pads click. And so, if you're a veteran and a guy kind of hits you a little bit late because he's super excited because he's trying to make the team and he's trying to stand out, an older guy isn't really going to stand for that, right? So that's when you get the flare-ups. And so I just want to speak to some of the psychology, and guys are coming from different places about how they approach training camp, what they're trying to get out of training camp, and how sometimes that mix of different intentions kind of flare up, and sometimes you get problems. And I got to tell you.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Did you ever get into a fight in training camp?
I can't remember specifically training camp, but I've absolutely been in fights on the football field at practice anyway. And let me tell you, speaking from experience, the worst thing that you can do is get into a fight on it during practice and your coach leaves you for the next play, because you are done, absolutely spent. I have so much respect for boxers that they can, for 15 rounds sometimes, do what they do, because when that adrenaline kicks in and you start to throwing hands, I'm telling you, when it's gone, you are absolutely spent and have to stay in there and play the next play. And sometimes that's the punishment, right? Keep your behind in there and play these next couple plays, and maybe that'll show you we want you tough during the play, not after the play, right? So,
kind of different than hockey.
Yeah.
Gloves off, hockey.
Though, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, offensive line wise, the model was always, if one goes, we all go, right? So if one starts throwing hands, everyone else better show up. Don't let the older guys see. If you're a younger guy and a fight breaks out, they don't want to see you hanging in the back, not participating, jumping in, right? And again, you've been kind of yipping at each other. You kind of been pushing each other late a little bit this whole off season. Now, finally, you can do something about it. And so that's the cauldron that we're speaking about, training camp. Some of the more fun things, interesting things. One, I played with Junior Seau for 9 years, and Junior controlled the music in the training room.
Oh.
And so each year he would choose one song, typically kind of sometimes it was like a pop 40, sometimes it would be more kind of a rap song. Sometimes, he was Samoan, so I can remember 1 or 2 years where it was kind of I don't know if it was specifically Samoan, but definitely more of a Pacific Islander feel. And that was the only song that would be played in training camp, in the training room, the entire training camp. On repeat. One song.
On repeat.
That was it.
Well, and no one would mess with Junior Seau, so you were stuck,
no one,
right?
Junior obviously had a ton of respect, and people would ask, "Hey, Junior, how about this afternoon?" No. So that was always fun.
Why did you do that?
Other things that I always look. Rookie hazing never stops. It starts when you get there, and it ends when you become that second-year player. Finally, right? Well, during training camp, one of the things I remember, I hated it because I was always the kind of person who wanted to be seen and not heard. I never wanted attention to be drawn to myself, even to this day. But one of the things we had to do was rookie skits. And so over the years, I've seen some, varying degrees in terms of quality. However, one that stands out was there was a certain player who the prevailing thought amongst many of his teammates was that he was a little bit of a butt kisser. And so the rookies put on a skit that demonstrated the lengths to which he was willing to go to secure a roster spot. And I just got to say, it involved a light and a sheet and a kind of a shadow performance. And I'm talking about, if you want to see 80 guys uncomfortable, like there was no laughter. It was like sometimes guys missed the mark, and it was just like, what are you guys thinking? Because number one, you got to still deal with that coach who's the recipient of all this supposed attention, according to it was a nightmare. It was an absolute, people are looking around the room like, should we go stop it?
But wait a minute. So who said you guys need to put on a skit? I'm assuming that they didn't say, we're going to put on a skit.
No.
Okay.
When you go into training camp, the veterans, typically just happens in each position. Hey, these are the things you got to do when you show up to training camp. There will be a skit that you guys have to put together. That's by position group. So the O-line rookies do a skit, by position group. And then we were told my rookie year, we had to know our fight song. In our group of veterans, a lot of places you have to, on command during meals. It was during meals. You had to sing on command, and basically you had to get up on the chair, introduce yourself, what school you're from. And actually, my group of veterans, they did not want fight songs. They wanted top 40, R&B. So if you came with a fight song, you were gonna have problems. They're like, no, start over. We want something we want to hear. And so
what did you sing?
Believe it or not, I sang Jodeci in the so my story, I did it while we were at training camp in La Jolla, which was by far, first of all, the number one training camp in the NFL was in La Jolla.
Of course.
Unfortunately, they don't do it there anymore, but just in terms of, you hear these stories about the heat index down in the South. And I honestly, I don't know how to do it, but in La Jolla, you got ocean breezes, you can run a ton of plays and it's not too taxing on you. But anyway, well, we break camp and we go to Germany to play an American Bowl in '94. We're playing the Giants in Germany. So according to us, we were like, well, hey, we broke camp. We are no longer required to sing. Well, the veterans were like, no, we're still officially in training camp, so you guys are going to sing. So I ended up singing a Jodeci song in the middle of the Hard Rock Cafe in Berlin. And the way it happened was I ordered a drink that I wasn't a big drinker in college. I drank a little bit. So I ordered a drink that I was familiar with, but in Germany, apparently this thing came out. It came out with umbrellas and fruit, and I saw the waitress bringing it from across the room, and I just had a feeling it was coming in front of them, and I'm trying to wave her off because I know how this is going to go, because they were kind of giving us a break this night. We had the night off, so we're just all kind of in Berlin, kind of, seeing what the city has to offer. And as soon as they put it down in front of me, who ordered the girl drink? Who ordered the girl drink? You gotta sing. So,
was the San Diego with the Charger fight song? Was it San Diego Supercharger? San Diego, was that the one?
Yeah, the best fight song in the business.
It is pretty catchy.
Yeah, sounds of the 70s, right?
Yeah. I just can't imagine who sits around and thinks those things up, though. Like, do the veterans get together and plot it out? Is it really do all the is this the favorite thing of everybody to do? Torture the rookies?
Definitely some guys get into it way more than they should, but more than others. And others just go along because it's just, it's just a time-tested, I don't know how tried and true it is, but it's like, it happened to me, it's going to happen to you, right? And so that's just one of the responsibilities as a rookie that you do. One of our guys ran out of the room, the dining hall in Berlin, and the veterans visited his room as a unit at bed check that night. They got the key from security, barged into his room, basically beat him up, and then put him in an elevator and sent him downstairs. It's and look, coaches always try to, if it goes too far, right, coaches will try to police it, but typically veterans police the locker room, right?
And
as long as you don't cross the line too bad, then nothing that really happens. So yeah. The other thing I remember and kind of miss is the golf carts, because we're pretty spread out up on UC San Diego's campus. And so, and I'm sure they do this a ton of places to try to save your legs. You use golf carts, right? And so we would get the gas golf carts, and then they have a regulator that you can pop the regulator to gain. I'm not exactly sure how many miles per hour it gives you, but it's significant. You can really feel it. So we would always race the golf carts, and of course, as you can guess, always someone goes too far at one point, and there've been a couple that have tipped over, taking a turn too quickly.
So when you did training camp, did they open it up to the public like they do now? There's 3 days where you can go. So they did that then too?
Well, all of our practices were open to the public because we were practicing right there. I don't know what that stadium is. It wasn't the actual real stadium. I think maybe they did track there. And so there was just a field in the middle. And so, yeah, every one of our practices was open to the public back then.
Did you like that as a player? I mean, or did you even really notice?
I mean, it would help break up a particular practice, especially once I got older. You kind of people watch the crowd, and one of our veterans, when I was a little bit younger, used to joke that when he retired, he was going to come and sit up in those stands with a cooler of ice cold beer and heckle us from the stands. So that was always funny. Yeah. So and look, training camp is a long time, right? It's roughly, they cut it down and replaced one of those preseason weeks with an actual week of football, but it's still long. You're there for roughly a month. You're away from your families. The guys who don't have family in town, I was lucky. I met Kim here. And then when we had kids, she would, on our 1 day a week that we got off, she would, bring the kids to that late practice on Saturday when we would get off. And then we got to go home, spend the night, and then we'd have to be back on Sunday. So that was nice. But if you don't have family in town, then, you're kind of looking for things to do. And a lot of guys probably, because you're so tired during training camp, it takes so much out of you, because at that point, for people who don't know, you're practicing twice a day. And I know now they kind of limited the number of times you can wear pads during training camp. Well, back when I went through it, pretty much every training camp practice was a padded practice. So we were going twice a day in pads. And as you can imagine, those are more intense practices. And so some guys, I'm sure, were just, and that's all I would do. I would go home, eat, and then pretty much just get into bed as soon as I could.
Talking about La Jolla being the ideal place for training camp, it is, because, you go here, they open it to the public at 8:30, because if they did it any later, everyone would be dying on the, the fans on the sidelines. But yeah. I can't even imagine what it's like for these guys out on that field in training camp, and the rookies, and especially if they come from somewhere else. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine you're out there in the Tampa heat and you come from Alaska or something?
Well, that's partly why, Dallas, I'm sure, they have their training camp right up the road in Oxnard, because being in Dallas this time of year during August, I just can't even imagine. You probably can't get much done.
But for us, don't you think they kind of have to? Because if you're not acclimated to this, and the first, 6 weeks, if not more, of our season, it's hot like this. They have to acclimate.
True, but they've had plenty of time, and it kind of ramps. It's not just, obviously, the weather just kind of ramps up as you're moving into August. And so they've been practicing the OTAs. And then once they get to their facility, once the season starts, you've got 10 to, depending on the team, 10 to 14 days before the season starts. And so you have time where you can get some work in under those circumstances.
What about that Hall of Fame game? Did you play in the Hall of Fame game? I think you guys did.
Our rookie year, yeah, we did.
What was that like?
Oh, well, I was, I'm looking back, I was pretty nervous. It was my first official game. Oh no, I'm sorry, I take that back. That was our second game. So I had one preseason, the one in Berlin, under my belt.
Okay.
Then we played in the Hall of Fame game. And so I just, I just remember, doing well, people would really be surprised. People who are physically capable, the thing that gets you through is having confidence that you can get it done. And just training camp was just a whole new, because it ramps up, right? So OTAs, again, excuse me, because you're working in, as we call it, skins, shirts and t-shirts. And so you can't, especially for an offensive line, you can't be physical. And so the tempo moves at a certain speed. Well, once you put the pads on, it ramps up from there. And then once the regular season starts and you get to an actual game, the game speed is different than the full padded training camp speed, right? It picks up all over. So I was still just trying to catch up, and so that was my second game, and I was just like, oh God, I hope I don't get someone killed out here.
Did you guys get to go? Did you get to tour the Hall of Fame since you were playing in that preseason game? Was that the coolest thing ever?
Yeah, it's very, a lot of guys have a different level of knowledge about, the game before we played. So I really appreciated being able to see the guys who kind of moved the ball forward and got us to where we were in 94. And like I've mentioned before, the game was huge in 94, and it's just exponentially bigger now. And it's it always keeps growing. It always keeps getting more and more important. And it's one of the few things, at least, which is why the salaries keep expanding, is because live sports, in particular football, is one of the few things that you can count on people showing up when you put a program on. And people their appetites don't seem to be slowing down. And so, it's huge. It can keep getting huger.
So what are one or two things that you would tell people to look for during training camp? What are some things that typically happen that as a fan we would want to be aware of?
If you're out of practice, I would definitely, like I'm sure you're going to go out during Tampa's 2-a-days, and I would definitely go down and check out the one-on-ones between the offensive and defensive linemen. That's always entertaining. And the offensive linemen are at a complete disadvantage because there's no threat of a run. Like, what it is, but that helps make you better. The fact that you are disadvantaged, you still have to perform. You can't go back to your coach when you get beat and tell him, well, he didn't have to play the run at all. Well, they understand that and they still expect you to win the drill. So that's pretty interesting. I would pay attention. Look, who your starters are for the most part. Maybe you're interested in one position battle, but I would really maybe just pick one or two rookies that you just want to follow throughout training camp and see their progression, because they might not be fighting for a for a starting job, but they're fighting for a roster spot, and sometimes those are the most intense battles. Pick two guys at the same position who are fighting for like one roster spot, and just see how that plays, and you'll be entertained almost on the daily. So I think that's something that would be cool.
Well, I'm ready. I'm sure you are. So we will see what happens next week. See what some of the big stories are in all the various training camps. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. And maybe next week, maybe you'll sing us that song that you had to sing.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Or at the very least, San Diego Superchargers. All right. Well, Vaughn, it was great to talk to you. Good stories. And we'll look forward to hearing some more.
Okie doke. Sounds good. Good talking to you.
Bye. Peace.
Bye.